Warning, what I'm going to teach you here isn't something to be understood by your mind. I might use a figure of speech, not so much for you to grasp what I'm teaching, so I can direct you toward that realization of the true self. The aspect of non-duality can be hard to express in words, and nobody can explain this viewpoint perfectly. It has been emphasized that language is one of the greatest barriers to explaining non-duality. Non-duality is not concepts, words, ideas, or definitions. This is simply an unexplainable aspect, to put it that way. Furthermore, simply by explaining to you, I'm already doing it wrong by nature. So don't get attached to words or any explanations. They are only pointers to guide you toward that aspect of non-duality. In simple terms, non-duality is a realization, not an understanding. Enjoy this video. Welcome back, magnificent spirits. Assuming you are new to this channel, welcome. I'm glad to have you, and remember to buy in and like my video for more content later on. In the present video, I will be taking you through an exceptionally profound point about non-duality, and I will be making sense of the beginning of the true spiritual awakening and what happens when you wake up to who you truly are in your essence. So how about we plunge into this video? The beginning of the true spiritual awakening is to realize the voice in your mind that is consistently commenting on your life for an extremely extensive stretch of time. At the end of the day, the spiritual awakening is to wake up from this illusion of the false sense of self, which I call the ego personality. Some call it the bogus mental self view. In different traditions, they call it the illusion of Maya. You wake up to the reality of who you genuinely are in your essence, and it doesn't have anything to do with the individual person. It's recognition of what your true identity is, and this can't be expressed in words. The awakening process is to regain what was lost in the first place. To realize the true self, one should stop the identification with form, to quit identifying with this separate self working as duality in this universe of structure. The consciousness which is the genuine self must disidentify from the dream of form. Since consciousness is dreaming from this deception of form. In any individual spiritual awakening, the spiritual journey starts with what we call an ego death experience. In our advanced social orders, they use the term dark night of the soul, yet it depicts exactly the same thing. Yet, initially, in ancient spiritualism, they have called it ego death. Ego death experience is the initial step of the spiritual awakening, wherein the false sense of self, called the ego, is dying with the goal that the true self can be born. It's a resurrection. Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you from my own experience, it's anything but not a smooth experience. It's a completely shuddering experience, which might potentially lead to suicide. You experience this profound sense of meaninglessness to life, no meaning by any means to life. For certain individuals, this can endure from several months to years depending on the amount of conditioning. The ego death experience can be triggered by an outside occasion, for example, the passing of a loved one, losing everything in your life circumstance, unrest, disease, and numerous things. Those outer occasions are going about as a catalyst to kickstart your spiritual awakening, which begins with an ego death experience. Allow me to let you know what's happening here in the ego death experience. Many individuals derive their very sense of self from the inner self character, which is the very thing that we were adopted by our societies and social orders. We have been conditioned to accept that we are our minds, or this ego personality, which is the accumulation of contemplation structures, successes and failures, recollections, accepts and discernments, thoughts, feelings, possessions, and so on, which individuals trust it's oneself. So the ego death experience is essentially eliminating that false illusory-based identity that a ton of people gave significance to, so that the true self can be revealed. It's a true remembrance. The ego death experience is the most difficult experience that one would never at any point envision, and I won't wish it on any other person. For certain individuals, the awakening can occur without ego death for some reason. The ego by nature does not like dying, and when things die, it freaking hurts. The period of the ego death experience varies from one individual to another. Certain individuals experience this for a really long time, some months, a few years, and you may be wondering why certain individuals take this more extended. The justification for why certain individuals go through ego death for a really long time is the grounds that they have too much conditioning to undo. That is the explanation, people. The more the conditioning, the more extended the ego death experience lasts. I will say this cautiously, the ego death experience isn't some form of a depression or tension state. This is a real phenomenon, and it is the most horrendous experience you will not want to go through, and I don't want it for anyone. To get past the ego death experience is to surrender to it completely without resistance. The more you surrender, the better. The harder you resist, the more it continues. This awakening isn't changing you, it is essentially discarding the one that you are not. In traditional Zen spiritualism, they say, you need to die before you die, and realize that there is no death. The spiritual journey isn't a journey to gain some type of a goal. Spiritual enlightenment, as indicated by Zen philosophies, can't be obtained, and the moment you make it an objective, you will miss it. The objective of the spiritual enlightenment is to realize that there is no objective, it's recognition of who you really are in your essence. In Samadhi they call the spiritual journey, the pathless path, suggesting that there is nowhere to exactly go. The reality behind the ego death isn't for you to endure, is so you can discover the freedom that was obscured by the inner self character. We can say as such, the spiritual awakening is the beginning of true freedom, peace, and harmony, which doesn't have anything to do with the conditioned person with its limitations, and I call it the limited self. The ego death experience could appear to be the end of the world, yet let me tell you from a most profound level, spiritual awakening, it's the beautiful experience you will want to wish for, in light of the fact that without precedent for your life, you are getting a taste of enlightenment for the first time. Furthermore, what I'm teaching you here is certainly not an emotional experience or a mystical encounter, it's the experience of the true self which can't be depicted using words. Simply by explaining to you right now, I'm already doing it wrong, on the grounds that language is a major obstruction in attempting to make sense of this part of non-duality. Yet, in this video, if it's not too much trouble, attempt not to understand what I'm talking about. I'm just using words as pointers, not really for you to grasp on the thing I'm making sense of, on the grounds that nothing to be understood. Non-duality can only be experienced when the overthinking ego is still. All in all, spiritual awakening isn't a journey of getting some form of an objective in the future, and coincidentally, it's a journey of remembrance, to remember who you truly are, coming back your real essence. You are complete and whole at this present moment. Nothing should be added to who you truly are in your essence. You are already perfect in your actual quintessence, and that is the true spiritual awakening. That is all there is to it for now, folks, and again remember to visit the connections in the portrayal beneath for more data. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it brought you value and inspired you in some way. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel to see more content like this. I truly appreciate your support and comments, and I look forward to creating more videos that you'll find useful and enjoyable. Feel free to let me know in the comments what topics you'd like me to cover in future videos. Thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.